I was watching this David Letterman clip on YouTube with guest Dave Chappelle, and for those who aren't familiar, Dave Chappelle, going on almost a decade now, on Comedy Central had a sketch comedy series called The Dave Chappelle Show. And under somewhat speculative and mysterious means, when they were rounding out a deal for like a third season or something, and they were going to drop a crap ton of money in his lap, he just kind of up and walked away from it, spirited away without any sort of official talk about it or anything like that. And even in this video clip with Letterman, the topic of discussion revolved around that to a point. And Chappelle's really been kind of twisty, turny, and soft-spoken with how he refers to it. He doesn't really come out and answer exactly what was going through his mind. But I found myself, and I was never really a big fan of the Dave Chappelle show. I was a fan of Chappelle, definitely in movies and stuff. But the particular, sort of style of comedy for that show didn't really conform to my particular tastes. So I never really got into it. But, the talk of this, even to this point, so many years later, has kind of made me retread in my mind a line of thinking as to what I think happened. And it's something you see, unfortunately, time and time again, where great talents, especially comedic talents, I'm looking at John Belushi and Chris Farley and those kind of guys, where the fame and the fortune just really, they lose themselves in it, and they start taking a darker path, like in those guys' cases, drugs, and that isn't to speculate anything along the drug lines with Chappelle. I have no idea whether that was a factor or not, but I mean, there comes a time where the analytical, somewhat pragmatist mindset, you have to admit that money's not for everybody, and fame and fortune and all these things can be very taxing and very, sort of negative, impactfully on someone's life. And I have to wonder if Chappelle was somebody who could perceive the potential for downfall and was seeing, this is kind of running away with me, and being somewhat pragmatic in his approach of it. He just, it was too overwhelming, and, you have to back away from it. Maybe his comfort zone was something much smaller, and more mainstream than having multi-millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff. I would assume, if he like won the lottery, we're all playing the lottery, we're not going to turn down money, because I mean, there's so much good you can do with it, and there's so much necessity in life, unfortunately, that revolves around it. But I think, looking at the situation on an observational level, I think there's a part of my thinking in any case where I can see where it might have just seemed like things were going too fast and too furious, and all this money and all the sort of problems that could crop up with that. I mean, from people trying to backstab you for it, from people trying to get handouts from you, from never being able to go anywhere without being recognized, the fame aspect of it. And I think all of these things, for Chappelle were probably, he was a clear thinker in that, maybe it's best if I don't let all this just, run me off the rafters, run me off the rails. And so I have to kind of respect him for that. Of course, as long as he stays tight-lipped about it and never really comes clean and explains what was going through his mind. He even says in the interview, most people think he's just crazy and an idiot. But I have great respect for anyone who could, live somewhat moderately successfully and turn away from something, knowing that it could potentially be destructive along those lines. I just think it's fascinating, and more power to him.